Myself, G. Mahesh Kumar, Assistant Professor of Chemistry. Today, in the environmental sustainability, the topic we are going to discuss is threats to biodiversity. Okay, topic of discussion is threats to biodiversity. The contents that we are going to discuss in the threats to biodiversity is one is biological diversity, introduction to the biological diversity, threats to the biodiversity. Next one is conclusion. Topic we are going to discuss is threats to the biodiversity. These are the following contents we are going to discuss. One is biodiversity, introduction to the biodiversity, threats to the biodiversity. Last one is conclusion. Coming to the threats to the biodiversity, biodiversity or biological diversity refers to the range of life forms present on the earth. There are different life forms that are present on the earth. Whatever the range that is present on the range of life forms on the earth is called as biodiversity. Biosphere. Okay, biosphere comprises of a complex collection of innumerable organisms known as biodiversity. What actually the biodiversity is nothing but biological diversity. Here we are going to discuss this biological diversity. The biosphere of this comprises of complex collection of innumerable organisms is known as biodiversity. It constitutes a vital support for survival of human race. Okay, biodiversity is comprises of vital life support for the survival of human race. It includes the millions of plants, animals, microorganisms, the genes that contain the ecosystem of which they are present. They are one of the part of the biodiversity. Millions of plants, millions of animals, and microorganisms that the genes they contain and the ecosystem of which they are part is nothing but biodiversity. Coming to the threats to the biodiversity, introduction to the threats to the biodiversity. Biodiversity, already you know that it is nothing but a variety of life forms on the earth and the ecological process that sustain it is called as biodiversity. It is a variety of living forms, variety of living organisms that are present on the earth and the ecological process that sustain it is called as biodiversity. Coming to the threats to the biodiversity are the factors that contribute to the loss or degradation of species. Okay, what is threats to the biodiversity? It contributes to the loss of degradation or degradation of species, ecosystem, and genetic diversity is nothing but threats to the biodiversity. Okay, factors that contribute to the loss or degradation of species, ecosystem, and genetic diversity is called as biodiversity. Understanding and addressing the threats, these threats is crucial for conserving biodiversity and maintaining the balance of our ecosystem. Understanding and addressing of these species, these threats is crucial for conserving the biodiversity, maintaining the balance between the protecting the biodiversity is the insurance for the sustainable future. Removing or avoiding the carbon emissions, we can provide the biodiversity. Habitat loss and fragmentation. Coming to the what is habitat loss and fragmentation. Habitat loss occurs when natural habitats are destroyed or converted into the human-dominated landscapes. Habitat loss occurs when natural habitats are destroyed or converted into the human-dominated landscapes. Fragmentation refers to the division of habitats. We are going to divide the habitats into the different fragments into smaller and isolated patches. This process disrupts the ecosystem, reduces the species population, limit their ability to survive and reproduce. This process disrupts the ecosystem, reduce the species population, limit their ability to survive and reproduce. climate change. Climate change is also one of the threat to the biodiversity. All these are the threats to the biodiversity. Coming to the second one, that is climate change. Climate change is primarily caused by human activities, which changes alters the temperature and weather patterns globally. Okay, weather patterns globally. Rising the temperature, changing the precipitation patterns, and extreme water events. Extreme water events can disrupt the ecosystem and negatively impact the species. Rising temperature, changing precipitation patterns, and extreme water weather events can disrupt the ecosystem and negatively impact the species. Climate change can lead to the shifts in species. Climate change can lead to the shift in species distribution, loss of habitat suitability, and increased vulnerability to the diseases. Increased vulnerability to the diseases. Coming to the pollution. Pollution is also one of the threat to the biodiversity. Here, pollution such as air, water, soil pollution can have effects on detrimental effects on the biodiversity. Air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution. Here, the study conducted in 2007 by David Pimentel at Cornell University suggests that 40% of all death worldwide are linked to soil, water, air pollution. Because of this air, water, soil pollution, the major part of the uh, are going to be in the risk. Chemical pollutants can accumulate in ecosystem and harm organisms directly or indirectly. Chemical pollutants can accumulate into the ecosystem and harm the organisms directly or indirectly. Pollution can alter the habitat, degrade the water quality, lead to the decline of sensitive species. Decline of sensitive species. Air pollution from smoke and various chemicals kill 3 million people in a year worldwide. Air pollution from smoke and from the various chemicals kill 3 million people a year worldwide. The United States alone, about 3 million tons of toxic chemicals are released into the environment, is contributing to one is cancer, birth defects, immune system defects, and many other serious health problems. All these are the one of the threat to biodiversity, that is pollution. In that pollution, such as air pollution, water pollution, and soil pollution, have all these problems can alter the habitat, degrade the water quality, lead to decline of sensitive species. Invasive species. Invasive species are non-native organisms that are introduced into the new environments. Okay, invasive species are non-native organisms that are introduced into new environment. These can outcompete native species for the resources and disrupt the ecological process. Invasive species can reduce the biodiversity by preying on native species, outcompeting them for the food or habitat and spreading the diseases. Like example, nutria, brown tree snail, zebra mussel, snakehead fish. All these are the some of the invasive species. These are nothing but non-native organisms that are introduced into the new environment, which can outcompete the native species for resources and disrupt the ecological process. Overexploitation. Overexploitation occurs when human harvest or hunt species at unsustainable rates. Overexploitation are some of the occurs when human harvest or hunt species at unsustainable rates. Unsustainable fishing, logging of water, hunting practices can deplete the population of commercially valuable species. Unsustainable fishing, logging, and hunting practices can deplete the populations of commercially valuable species. Overexploitation can disrupt the food webs, reduce the genetic diversity, lead to the extinction of species. Lead to the extinction of species. Agriculture expansion. Agriculture expansion is also one of the threat to the biodiversity. As the global population grows, the demand for the food and agricultural land is increases. Okay, as increase in the population, the need of agriculture. Here, agricultural land is some of the cropland, cropland and pastures for the grazing. Livestock produces. It is measured to constant international dollars, which adjust for the inflation, includes all the crops and livestock. Expansion of agriculture leads to the conservation of natural habitats into the farmland. This conversion results in loss of biodiversity as a natural ecosystem are replaced by monocultures, simplified landscapes. Deforestation is also one of the threat to the biodiversity. It is nothing but it is a permanent removal of trees from the forest, leads to the deforestation. Deforestation occurs when the permanent removal of trees from the forest takes place. Primarily driven by agriculture expansion, logging, infrastructure development. Okay, the main aim of this deforestation is for agriculture expansion and logging and infrastructure development. Deforestation results in habitat loss, disrupt ecosystem, contributes to the climate change. Overpopulation and urbanization is one of the threat to the biodiversity. What is overpopulation? What is urbanization? Here, overpopulation is nothing but rapid population growth and urbanization put pressure on natural resources and ecosystem. Rapid population growth and urbanization put pressure on natural resources and ecosystem. Increased urbanization leads to destruction of natural habitats and fragmentation of landscapes. Increased urbanization leads to the destruction of natural habitats and fragmentation of landscapes. Overpopulation and urbanization can other breaks to the biodiversity such as pollution and habitat loss. Here in the year different years 1950 to 2020, what is the percentage of loss? In Africa 14.3 and 43.25. This is how the different urbanization and overpopulation of species takes place. It is one of the threat to the biodiversity. Disease outbreak. Disease outbreak is also one of the threat to the biodiversity. The emergence and spread of diseases can have significant impact on biodiversity. Emergence and spread of diseases can have the significant impact on biodiversity. Disease outbreaks can cause population declines and even extinction events. Factors such as habitat destruction, climate change, introduction of invasive species can increase the vulnerability of species to the diseases. Species to the diseases. Global example of emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. Antimicrobial resistance like Christopedia, influenza, E. coli, measles, human, listerious, anthrax, chikungunya. All these are the different diseases that outbreak for the example for the threat to biodiversity, which is an example for the global examples of emerging and re-emerging the infectious diseases like Rift Valley fever, different Nifia virus, Hindria virus, human monkeypox, Zika virus, plague. All these are the different newly emerging, re-emerging or resurging diseases that are spread in the global level. Emergence and the spread of diseases can have the significant impact on biodiversity. Disease outbreak can cause a population declines and even extinction events. Factors such as habitat destruction, climate change, introduction of invasive species can increase the vulnerability of species. Coming to the conclusion of threats to biodiversity, threats to biodiversity are multifaceted, interconnected. Multifaceted, interconnected. Addressing these threats require a combination of strategies and global cooperation. Addressing of these threats requires a combination of strategies and global cooperation. Protecting the biodiversity is not only essential for the health of ecosystem but also for the well-being of future generation. Okay, here it is multifaceted and interconnected, which leads to the addressing these threats requires a combination of strategies and global cooperation. Protecting the biodiversity is not only essential for health of ecosystem but also for well-being of future generation. References we are using for the environmental sustainability is Robertson Margaret Sustainability Principles and Practices, Routledge, Tyler and Francis 2017. and responsibility for teaching sustainability in the context that is general of sustainable education. These are the two references we are going to follow for the environmental sustainability. Sustainability Principles and Practices, Routledge and Taylor Francis Group 2017. Responsibility for Teaching Sustainability in Context, General of Sustainable Education. These are the two references we are going to follow for the environmental sustainability. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.